highly anticipated Dune trailer is almost upon us, and this will be the first time audiences will get an official look at this sci-fi epic. Fans' imaginations are running wild as to what will be included in the first glimpse of the newest adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel. In this video, I'll be talking about news regarding the trailer and the film itself with potential spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything about the film and the trailer, click away now. The trailer has been confirmed for an August release, and since then we've had some details regarding what could be featured in it. Actress Zendaya has hyped up the trailer in a recent interview she did with InStyle. The person who interviewed her saw the trailer as well and commented that Zendaya looked fierce in it. The actress went on to praise Timothy as well after seeing the trailer for herself and telling him that he should be proud. As far as what has been confirmed in the trailer, aside from seeing Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet, reportedly we will be getting our first look at Baron Harkonnen, who is rumored to look demonic, which makes sense as Stellan Skarsgård's portrayal of the Baron has been repeatedly described by the director to be quite frightening. Another element that fans are also hoping to get a glimpse of are the great sandworms that patrol the desert planet Arrakis. These massive creatures reign supreme on Dune, and even people who aren't familiar with the story are aware of this icon of the science fiction genre. A sneak peek of them in this trailer would certainly be a big draw for general audiences as well, which this film needs probably now more than ever. However, there is a growing concern as to whether the sandworm will even be in the film, let alone the trailer. This concern has stemmed from a recent interview with the supervising art director for Dune, Tom Brown, which was posted on the Kids First Film Critics YouTube channel on August 6th. This interview has since been made private on their channel and is no longer available for viewing. The Reddit thread containing the link to this interview was also removed and was cited as being misleading, speculation, and possible spoilers. It was an interesting interview that mostly concentrated on his career and his work as the supervising art director on Dune. Tom Brown did make some pretty controversial and possibly misleading comments regarding the sandworms, which seems to be a big contributor for the reasons the video was removed. When the interviewer asked Tom about the creatures specifically and the production of them, Tom Brown stated in part 1 of this two-part adaptation that sadly there were no sandworms. He did appear to contradict himself, however, as he did confirm that the worm would appear in a dream sequence and that they had in fact built a part of the worm for this film. I can easily see how the statement could be misconstrued, and I understand why it was taken down, as this seems like a pretty heavy spoiler, and not only a huge letdown for Dune fans, but also a missed opportunity in drawing general audiences. So just to come out and say that there will be no sandworms in Dune would definitely be an issue for Warner Brothers. I do think we need to take his comments with a grain of salt, and it's important to take into consideration the context of the interview as a whole, as well as the book itself, to get a better understanding of what Tom Brown is referring to. The interview itself mostly covered his work with concept art and building sets, the ornithopters, and in reference to the sandworm that they did in fact build a piece of it. He later said that worm technology was not being used in this film, which, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what he means by worm technology, but it did seem more likely that in the context of the interview, it was in reference to an actual physical creature creation, or to the building of large pieces of the sandworm for certain sequences, as opposed to using special computer-generated effects. I will say that considering the times the sandworms are featured in the first half of the book, it's understandable how only parts of the beast would be seen, and that the signs of its presence will be achieved with certain sound and visual effects. But again, to say that there are no sandworms in the film can be seen as misleading, as there are at least a couple of scenes involving the sandworms and some main characters, one in particular in which it is impossible to not include some portion of this creature. The image of Josh Brolin and Timothée Chalamet that Empire magazine was given as an exclusive was most likely from the scene involving a sandworm, and in that exclusive the director specifically commented on the sandworms and how much work went into their design. In fact, he said it took a year to design the perfect shape that looked prehistoric enough. My guess is that the part that they ended up building was most likely the maw of the beast, and we will probably at least get a good look at the business end of these fierce creatures. Denis also commented on how much work went into conceiving the movements of the sandworm, and specifically how the mouth would open. So again, there's no way we're not at least getting a look at its maw, but even that could certainly be enough to strike fear and awe in the viewing audience. Tom Brown did emphasize that Part 2 is when we would really see them, and it is true that in the latter half of the book, that is when we would be able to see the worms fully emerged from the sand, and to behold them in all their immense prehistoric glory. The Fremen do ride these beasts, and the main character Paul also learns to do so. This would also mean that there would be more physical elements that would have to be built for the actors to interact with. So again, I think this is what Tom Brown was referring to as worm technology, and that he was mostly considering it from his standpoint as to what his team would have to build. I can definitely understand how there will be more work done in that regard in Part 2 of this adaptation. Again, it seems he's looking at the sandworms as a whole, and that to say there were no sandworms in this film meant that there were no portions of the film where we would see the worm in its entirety. There also seemed to be a bit of miscommunication between the interviewer and Tom Brown, as it appeared he was misunderstanding the questions at times, so that could also have been a factor. The interview was done over video conferencing and didn't have very good audio quality. There was another portion of the interview where Tom Brown was asked if Part 2 of the film had started production yet. There was definitely a miscommunication here, as Brown answered by saying that Part 1 of the film had indeed finished filming, and then he went on to talk about the planned reshoots, but that the film had finished. So yes, he misheard the question and never mentioned anything about the second film's production status. Again, I would advise taking this whole interview with a grain of salt. I will say that when taking all that we've learned about the production of this film, and Denis Villeneuve's approach to Frank Herbert's story, these comments don't worry me all that much. I do concede that the parts where the sandworms are featured in the first half of the book, it wouldn't be necessary to see them in their entirety, but that doesn't mean that they won't be fearsome. Often what builds fear and tension is what we can't see. The mystery surrounding these creatures is definitely a crucial part of the story. What needs to be established in this film regarding the sandworms is their power, that the planet Arrakis belongs to them, and that they should be respected. The signs and sounds of their approach can definitely instill fear and awe, and I have every confidence in Denis to be able to pull that off, and that whatever we do see of these massive beasts in this first film will be remembered, and it will make the second film of this adaptation that much more unique and special in its own right. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy content. And let me know your thoughts on this interview if you got a chance to see it, and what you think Villeneuve's approach will be in presenting these desert creatures. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.